1. Good evening, welcome to this special bit of news for Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is FailCraft Casts. Hope you're well, and if you're live, we are going to be just charging through. It is Naxxramas Eve, Tuesday 22nd of July, Naxxramas releases. Curse of Naxxramas is Hearthstone's first adventure mode, and that is going to be out 22nd of July, US, and 23rd of July, EU. So, you US people are going to get it first, but let us jump into our new cards. Yay! And the first we have is Thaddius. Thaddius being one of the bosses of the Construct Quarter, and you can see that eventually he's just going to be a 10-11-11. So, for 10 mana, he's going to be an 11-11 drop. He's going to be a boss that you are fighting. I do not think you're going to be able to play as Thaddius. He is ready to go with 11 attack, 11 health. If he gets out, he's going to be hurting you. Next up, whoop. Let's drop off. We have a Wailing Soul. Now, Battle Cry of silencing your other minions. Very interesting. In terms of Wailing Soul, for the 4 mana, you get the lower attack, the higher health as you do. If you have some kind of effect on the card, you generally get either a higher attack, low health, or lower attack, high health. Similar kind of thing. So the Wailing Soul looks as though he's actually, because of his rarity, one that we're going to be able to get ourselves. How could silencing all of your other minions be useful? Well, if there is a card that has a not particularly nice piece of card text on, then dropping a Wailing Soul could be great, because it absolutely takes everything off that has an ability on the thing. And yep, it has been shouted out, good with Ancient Watchers. At the moment, big pardon, a Watcher deck. If you silence the Watcher that can't attack, it can suddenly attack for 4 attack and has that 5 health. So the Wailing Soul could give some very interesting options. If you can get a lot of cards out that have card text that sort of negatively impacts them, then suddenly the Wailing Soul can sort of swing through. So the Ancient Watcher, as people in the chat have suggested, is a great example that could combo with that. Next up, we've got the Unstable Ghoul. Taunts, Death Rattle, deal 1 damage to all minions. Very interesting. That is kind of an immediate anti-aggro. How I see that is that dropping just one of those in your deck will immediately sort of give Zoo and Hunter Rushes and Murloc decks and things a really tough time. 2 of those in your deck, well, you know, you can throw those down in the early game. Providing you draw those, that's really going to help against aggro early game rush decks and similar. But then, again, for a very cheap mana cost, we're going to see how that does, but that really counters aggro, and I think we'll see this card being dropped in to a whole bunch of things as well. So, interesting uses for that. Good warrior card as well, says Monkey of Chaos. Interesting things we could potentially do with that too. So yeah, a very quick initial impression of the Unstable Ghoul. Another mention, Acolyte Synergy. Yeah, absolutely. Dealing 1 damage to all minions. I forgot to mention that. A baby abomination, says Dave. Yeah, very good point. Of course, with a control warrior or with a warrior, you can have Acolytes of Pain, do damage to your own minions and draw cards. And also, you can, so cute, I probably wouldn't agree with that. But you can also damage your own Armor Smiths to draw cards as well, so it'd be very interesting to see in a warrior deck. Next up then, you Rubra Weblord. Minions with Battle Cry costs 2 more, so that immediately is going to slow down your opponent's deck. And of course, Frothing Berserker Synergy as well has been called for our Unstable Ghoul. You guys in the chat, live on Twitch, you should be doing this. I'm glad that we've got your tactical nous and wisdom to back us up. The new Rubra Weblord. Now, anything with Battle Cry draw a card. Battle Cry, I'm thinking of lots of the early game Battle Cries and similar. This will slow down or render a lot of those minions really awkward. So I'm thinking of things like the Novice Engineer. Suddenly, the Battle Cry of Novice Engineer drawing a card, suddenly your opponent can't draw the card. Azure Drakes, another mention. Minions with Battle Cry costing 2 more. Ideally, because this is quite squishy, you'd want to put it up behind some kind of tank or player at a time where your opponent's more likely to be playing cards with a Battle Cry. So, other similars. Does it do something against Leroy? It does, because Leroy's Battle Cry is summoning those whelps. So that actually also slows down some charging cards as well if they've got Battle Cries as well. So this will mess up a lot of decks that use Battle Cry cards. I need to have a look through the Battle Cry cards, but as your Drake has been mentioned, Frothing Berserker as an example. Sorry, not Frothing Berserker, Novice Engineer has been mentioned as another early game card. So that is probably a tech card that will slow down some decks. Next, KelThuzad. Well, I think he's just a big boss daddy, but if we can actually use him at the end of the turn, summon all friendly minions that died this turn. What if you throw him in a druid deck, for example, with the card we've just had a look at, maybe Force of Nature, you can suddenly resummon all of your Treants, for example. You could suicide a lot of your charging minions with low health in, and then suddenly KelThuzad will resummon all of those minions. So if you can kill a lot of minions in one go, KelThuzad just picks them all back up. And then if you can keep KelThuzad alive, then you can charge all of those minions in again. And then at the end of the turn, if KelThuzad's behind a tank, again all of those minions will get back up. Welcome, Broderson. Great to have you with us. Next up, we've got Haunted Creeper. Now, the Death Rattle summons 2/1/1 Spectral Spiders. Well, you throw him down as a beast. How he could come in a Hunter deck. So the Death Rattle summoning those 2 spiders, I need to have a look at the Spectral Spider, but that looks like a cheap beast that could work well in Hunters and gives you a swarm effect. When it dies, it's a 3-for-1. It dies and summons 2 spiders. If you can buff those spiders, then that will be interesting. Next, the Spectral Night. Now, this has been described as the 4/6 Fairy Dragon, and that's exactly what he is. He cannot be targeted by heroes or spell powers, and he needs a direct attack. And he also has 4 attack and 6 health, so a nice solid set of stats. Now, he's not quite as solid as the Fairy Dragon is in the early game, but he's a very nice card nonetheless. So I can see him being good perhaps in some mid-game decks. I could see some taunts being thrown on him with Sunfury Protectors and other cards. So again, it'll be an interesting mid-game play. It'll be good to see how he really gets nice and solid. Hey, welcome to all of you who have just joined us. You join us looking through Curse of Naxxramas cards as just a little bit of a new player kind of introduction. Just all of the cards that have been shared ahead of Naxxramas' release tomorrow, so it's great to have you all with us. What we're taking a look at the moment is Spectral Night, and he's been described as the fairy dragon, as it were, of the Naxxramas world. So he's a little bit more solid, a little bit more solid health. And I just want to say a big hello to Aegon, Beardy88, Jacob with a K, very, very specific. Last Mind, good to have you with us as well. Neo Judas, a new Judas, not an old one. Good to have you all with us too. Okie dokie. Another nail in the coffin of the Priestess Mount Hunter, because he is a 4 attack, of course, which means he'll be very hard to take out. So it'll be interesting to see what Spectral Night drops in as a very initial. Please remember, I'm coming to all of these cards blind. I've not done a huge amount of back spoiler reading because I've been trying to keep Nax as fresh as possible. So I can see him being very solid in some mid-game-ish decks. He could be an interesting deck in terms of tempo as well. A card that can grab tempo off your opponent, particularly if you throw a taunt on him with something like a Sunfury Protector. Next up we have Fugen. We have Fugen. I believe that there's Fugen and Stalag, and then when you kill those 2, Thaddius comes out. So if you played World of Warcraft, yep, that's true. So once both of those have been killed, then Thaddius comes out. So I don't think we'll get to play as Fugen because he is a boss minion that you will play in the Construct wing of Naxxramas. But what does he do? Well, you need to kill him before and Stalag before Thaddius will come out. So you just got to take him down for 5 mana. He'll come out very reasonably early in the game. He's got 4 attack and 7 health. Who knows what other mechanics this boss fight will have? But he's just a minion you're going to have to kill. Familiar to World of Warcraft raiders, if you've never played World of Warcraft, you need to take out Fugen and Stalag before you can get Thaddius. That was a boss in Naxxramas. Next up we have the Echoing Ooze. And the Echoing Ooze is an exact copy of this minion at the end of the turn. I see Ooze as being a semi-rush card. He multiplies. I can't remember quite what boss he was from, but there was a boss where the users all multiply in Naxxramas and World of Warcraft. So fun stuff here. If you can keep him alive, summon an exact copy of this minion at the end of the turn. Okay, sorry, that's because that's a battle cry. But if he stays alive to the end of the turn, interesting. I need to double check as to whether he needs to stay alive, but the battle cry probably means that effect, regardless of whether the ooze or not comes into play, will take effect anyway, even if the user is killed or not. Just have to double cry, unless he was silenced the same turn, because the battle cry means that effects comes in. Ooze, Blessing of Kings, end turn. Good shout from Monkey of Chaos. However you buff this card, you'll get a copy of that card by the end of the turn. Echoing plus buff, summon 2 buffed echoed ooze. Yes, interesting. Very, very nice. So whatever you apply to this card, you'll get the buff of that when the ooze comes into play. So again, how can we use him? Well, I think there's, as people have mentioned, paladin decks, similar kinds of things. Any way that you can buff this chap up and keep him alive, you're going to get a very early game swarm. So it'll be interesting to see how Echoing Ooze works out. Next up we have the Death Lord. Taunt and Death Rattle. Your opponent puts a minion from the deck into the battlefield. Ugh. Right, okay, well we can see how this works. Now, if you've got a low cost and a really high stat, you're going to have some kind of negative effect, or you're going to have really imbalanced. So for the 3 mana, you get an 8 health minion, but the Death Rattle, as soon as he dies, your opponent puts a minion from the deck into the battlefield. So you get a very, very high health early game card, but if your opponent kills it, he can then resurrect something. Now, your opponent puts a minion from their deck into the battlefield. It says put rather than choose, so I'm guessing that this is a random minion. I need to double check that. I'm sure that will be said by the Blizzard guys on Facebook. So you would really have to find a way of rushing with this in the early game to make it worth it, because otherwise when it gets into the late game, your opponent's going to be resurrecting their minions. Now if your opponent kills a minion, the minion comes into the battlefield, it will have Summoning Sickness. Nice artwork, bad card you say. I need to have a think. This can be quite frustrating for Miracle Road, says Broderson. You could even silence this minion, says Monkey of Caps. Yes, very true. You could silence it so that you then just have the minion in the early game. Again, a very good shout. Hey, so if you get this out, you silence this, and then suddenly you get, of course remember that a taunt would remove the silence. So you could silence it and then taunt it. That's going to be 4 mana if you use 9 Iron Beak Owl and a Sunfury Protector. Okay, could you use this to bring Leroy out of a road deck and then kill it? Yes. If they destroyed it already, if it was already oh, a minion from their deck. Sorry, I was thinking graveyard. Okay, so the real question is, can your opponent choose? I need to look that up, to be honest with you. But if your opponent can choose a minion, then that could be very, very dangerous. So you'd need to kind of silence this. But I can see uses for it, but it needs the supporting cards with it too. Next we've got Zombie Chow. Do not forget Deathlord, but it's very situational. Some people are arguing. I'll be interested to see if people find a use for that. It will require some creative mechanics and quite a few supporting cards. Zombie Chow, Death Rattle, restore 5 health to the enemy hero. Right, well, you get this out in the early game, you can attack stuff with it, but the Death Rattle, it suddenly heals up the enemy hero. So how can you use this? Well, you could use this to charge into and control enemy minions in the early game, and by not doing damage to the enemy hero, you're not really giving them the benefit of the heal. So if you use this to attack enemy minions and it dies, then you're taking advantage of that early low mana cost for the solid stats, and then by not doing it damage to the enemy hero, Orkanai, yeah, people have mentioned, you can, yeah, okay, that makes sense. With Orkanai you can pick off minions and similar. Of course he can choose, this is Hearthstone, not Magic, says Jex Sannon. Sorry Jex, very true. I've been taking a look at Magic recently. Sorry, I've been thinking through lots of different things, including Magic recently. Maybe I'm half stuck in Magic, but thank you Jex for that feedback. Of course he can't choose, sorry. Yeah, true stuff. So there are uses for Zombie Chow. He can drop into Priest and similar, but we'll see how he goes. Next we've got Meg Thinner. We are rapidly charging through to the end. Sorry, this has been a quick charge through, but we need to keep this pretty speedy. Meg Thinner, she's going to be a boss, of course. No opponent can't choose. They don't want the opponent to have to make a choice during your turn. It ruins the flow of the game. They have mentioned that. That is very true, says Broderson. And let's just put him back up. The card that does something to a minion does it to a random one, not you. I want to never choose. You can choose like Drew cards and it will clearly say choose. Yeah, I thought that was the case because it said put. I'm very glad that you folks have confirmed that. So thank you Broderson and Jackson for confirming what I was not quite too sure about. But I should have known, I should have remembered. But well done you guys. Thank you very much. Right, a very good reason why Hearthstone community is much awesome. Maxina destroying minion damaged by this minion. Lunch for the Kodo, says Mouse Hunter. Yeah, the Stampeding Kodo, as people mentioned, destroying a minion with throw less attack. You could immediately bin Maxina. So susceptible to silence. Says other people, yep. Well, the high health would give it lots of ability to kill minions. Maxina will try and attack all the minions, but you're right, the Stampeding Kodo will just remove it, and the silence will then just make it a low attack card. So sometimes I remember you might not be able to silence the boss cards, maybe it will have a non-silence ability on it. But remember, Maxina is a boss, you're not going to be drawing these cards. So if you can silence it, it'll be real easy to take down. If you can't silence it, also remember that sometimes they do make bosses immune to the effects of some minions that you have. I think, I can't remember. I don't know why I'm remembering that, because the tutorial wouldn't have that. Cabal Shadow Priest, says Brodison. You could even mind control it and use it if you're in Nefarious Games. So it all depends on how your card effects will affect this card. If your cards, all of the cards that you've mentioned, will the effects on the cards will affect this card, then you can take it out. If not, then it will be very powerful and nasty. Right, we're getting there. Bear with us. The Sludge Belcher, Taunt, Death Rattle, summon a 1/2 slime with Taunt. So you can throw out, it's kind of a baby abomination. But for that core cost, it's a 2-for-1. So it has less attack, higher health than the abomination. It doesn't have the nasty Death Rattle effect of doing lots of damage. And then the Death Rattle, when it dies, you get another Taunting Slime. So think of abomination, but more health. It will stay alive for longer, and then it has the additional tank as well, so it will really slow things down. So that could help in some mid-game decks, I feel, stalling some things out, and we'll see how it goes. Next up we've got Stalag. So Stalag is a boss card. I'm not going to go over him too quickly, but you need to kill him and Fugan before Thaddius is summoned in the construct wing of Naxxramas. So as opposed to Fugan had a lower attack and higher health, he's got higher attack and lower health, and they're both 5 mana, so they'll probably come out at a similar time. Stoneskin Gargoyle at the start of your turn, restore this minion to full health. Well, that's very interesting. If we can buff this guy's health, he is going to be healed up. If you don't take him out, he's just going to return stronger and harder. Now, even though he has a relatively low attack, he could be an excellent tank if you drop a Sun Fury Protector on him or similar, and if you manage to buff up his health, I can see him fitting very well in priest decks, for example, if you want to slow someone down, vulnerable to some other priest removal and similar such, but he could be a very strong card to combo with priests, perhaps divine spirits and inner fires. So at the very least, a very good slowing card in many different ways. Right, we now have another Mad Scientists. The Death Rattle, put a secret from your deck into the battlefield. So with any secret playing deck, you can not only do some nice attack in the early game, but speed out secrets. The Paladin has got a new very nice secret. We'll see how he goes. And then last but not least, Lerthep. So again, another boss. Battlecry, enemy spells cost 5 more next turn. So as soon as he goes into play, you won't be able to play any spells effectively. Another boss that we look forward to taking out. Right, sorry that was a quick charge through, but that is it for tonight's special Hearthstone news episode. I've bbeen Hammy, this is FailCraft.org. I have to go and look after not only my wiser half, but a new pet that we've welcomed into the household, and I've been a little bit longer than I should have done. So thank you so much for tuning in. Just a little summary for all of those of you tuning in live who don't join us normally, where you can find us. We go Monday through Friday, about this time, Monday through Friday, we do Hearthstone half hour, 5 nights a week, so come join us, we'd love to see you. Twitch.tv/FailCraftCast, just hit subscribe and you can come join us. We will always tweet on @FailCraftCasts whenever we are live or about to go live. We'll give you as much notice as possible. We are in the UK, so we're on UK time, but we'll always tweet on Twitter @FailCraftCast to give you notice in case you're in the US or another time zone and you'd like to join us. Where else can you find us? Well, if you're joining in live on Twitch, go and have a look at youtube.com/FailCraftCast. You can see our entire archive of the Hearthstone half hour. We've done almost 80 episodes now. And we're also doing the Heroes of the Storm half hour. We've got access to the technical alpha, and we're starting to look at doing other games as well. So come and join in. Let us know what you'd like to see of other games, or if you like Blizzard games, come and see a little bit of Heroes of the Storm. That's loads of fun as well. So come and join us there. And then last but not least, the website is failcraft.org. You can see all of our videos there as well. All of those are on YouTube and Twitch anyway. But you can also see a few blogs, bits and bobs, and links for new player articles that we can't see anywhere else. So I need to dash off, but thanks so much for tuning in. And all you new folks as well. Great to have you along, and hope to see you again soon. Take it easy. And we will be back tomorrow night, hopefully. Tomorrow's Tuesday, so it'll be Pick Your Own Arena for the Hearthstone half hour. You will get to see what heroes we have for Arena. You'll get to pick one, then you can tune in live and pick them.